Tune in to the Red, White, and Blue Show, where David, Martin, and Nick will blow your mind talking religion, politics, and money too. It's a talk show that's always in prime time. With their unique perspectives and in-depth analysis, they'll keep you informed on the latest news. So join the conversation on the Red, White, and Blue Show with David, Martin, and Nick. Your go-to views.
It's the Red, White and Blue Show. Myself, David Polden, Nick Smith and Martin Costello will be taking you through this evening a few topics. We talk about religion, politics and money, all the things you shouldn't talk about. Unfortunately, we cannot talk about the old jibby jabs because we get suspended. My account on YouTube has actually been nuked from our very first episode. I can't upload any more videos. And yeah, so we'll keep that sort of talk to a minimum. We'll try and talk in code where possible. Also this evening we are
code names.
Yeah, that's it. That's how we got to play it. You know, we all know what we mean, so we just have to play it like that. Also this evening we're joined by Jolene Bunting and Nick, Martin. What do you reckon? What's been going on? So obviously our first topic of this evening.
Go on. What are we starting off with, mate?
Well, I guess we'll touch on the tranny rapist, I suppose.
Wow, I mean that is one interesting subject. I mean these lefties are getting turned into extremists now, aren't they?
It's fucking insane. That's what it is. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, this is the insanity that we're seeing now. And of course, what we saw up in Scotland with Nicola Sturgeon, the World Economic Forum puppet, pushing these like gender laws through. I mean, brave women are speaking out against this now because they are genuinely fearful of being in prisons with such people. It's a big problem. You know, their safety's paramount. I've heard of actual cases where someone's claimed a man claimed then to be a woman. He got put into a female prison and he got an inmate pregnant. This is the entitled sanity we're seeing now.
I've seen that and heard that many times, actually, Martin. This is the whole joke of it. So here we are. We're talking about a big, bald-headed, face-tattooed man who raped not one but two women over a 3-year period. He then, after being arrested, said he was transitioned to a woman. And the judge, now, the judge is willing to let this bloke go to a woman's prison. It's just mad. I mean, my judgment of the judge is bonkers.
Insane. That's what it is. It's insane.
No, precisely. I mean, these liberals are just getting worse by the day as well. They're hell bent on destroying the family unit with their LGBT agenda that just got to a new form of extremity now, and it's actually affecting people's very safety. Very concerning.
It is, Martin. And sorry, David. It is, Martin. As you touched on earlier, as I said, I've seen and heard many cases where men have raped women, and then when they're in front of the judge, they're saying that they identify as a female woman and that they're in the middle of a transition, and then the judge sentences them to a women's prison. And there's been many a times where this convict, has raped women with his third leg, because he's still got his third leg, in a women's jail. This has got to stop. It's madness.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely insanity. I mean, what's going through their minds? I mean, how can you justify putting a rapist into a female prison? It actually makes no sense at all. It's just insane. It's absolutely insane.
There's no justifiable reason.
I've sent a link to an invite to Jolene. Hopefully she'll be able to jump in on this one and give her opinion. As we know, she's very active in Northern Ireland with this sort of thing. Jolene, what's your opinion on this?
Well, you know, this is going to happen time and time again, and it's not going to get any less over the coming months. I think we're going to see a lot of men who just see an opportunity and say that they are women and go into these prisons. And I don't think that any woman is safe in a prison as long as that happens. But not only in prisons, in public bathrooms, in changing rooms. We are seeing these men, and yeah, you're right. You know, they're hairy ass men who are walking into these changing rooms with women. God love any who think that they're going to come into the toilet while I'm in it. But you know, the reality is that the majority of women will just walk out of the bathroom and they will be too afraid to actually stand up to this. And if they do stand up, the likelihood is they'll be arrested. So I don't think I think until the government catch a grip and stop, you know, treating this mental illness like it's something that you should be proud of. I think what we need to do is start treating it as a mental illness, and start speaking to these people and trying to find out how we work with these people who have probably most likely been traumatized in some way or another, who are saying that they're genuine, and these fake women who are coming in, you know, with their tattoos and their beards and saying, yes, I'm a woman, I want to go to a female prison. We need to be wise to them, judges need to be wise to them, but what's the likelihood of that actually happening?
Probably zero.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
We'll be infringing their human rights, won't we? So we can't ask such questions. But like I say, it's absolutely paramount, the safety of the females in prisons. And I mean, we're just living in some sort of parallel universe, aren't we? I mean, this is so bonkers. It's got to be like the last few days of civilization.
And this is what everyone was worried about with this, you know, gender reform bill when it was originally put through. You know, everyone voiced concerns about this very, very situation. You know, when people were shut down, called transphobic, and we were told that, you know, this sort of thing wouldn't happen. And again, you know, it is happening. And, you know, we're seeing judges now. Obviously, I'd say he's aiding and abetting a rapist.
Here, David.
You know, if anything happens to any, you know, female inmates, because of the actions of this judge, I think the judge should be arrested for aiding and abetting a rapist.
But I think that's part of the problem. I think you know, the likes of judges and politicians and even celebrities, they're not being held to account for pushing these political agendas. And if you say this is a political agenda that you're pushing, you're transphobe or you're homophobe, and you're shut down. And we know the real life implications that speaking out about this has.
Yeah.
As Jolene rightly said, it's typical. The names start spewing out. You're transphobic. You're this, that, and the other. We've been there before with other issues. It's boring. But Jolene made a good point earlier, which I said before, and it is. Let's not beat around the bush. As I said before, David Polden, this is why this platform's good. It is a mental illness. It is a mental illness to think that you're a different gender to what you're born with, different sex to what you're born with. It is genuinely a mental illness. Let's not beat around the bush. That is exactly what it is. Well done, Jolene, and let's carry on saying what it is.
Right. So next topic I just want to touch on, guys, is you probably would have seen this, is the asylum seeker who stabbed to death a guy. I think it was over an e-scooter, and I believe he was a serving squaddy in the British Army. So he was killed by this guy who apparently he had killed 2 people in Serbia before he entered the UK. Made out he was a 14-year-old child, and this situation's happened. Sadly, one of our own has been killed. I mean, what do you make of this story? This is alarming to say the least.
It is. We're talking about an asylum seeker who had run-ins in Italy with drug issues before he went to Serbia and killed 2 people with an AK-47. Who then come here a couple of months later, and then was involved in killing a aspiring Royal Marine over, as you said, an e-scooter. I think the Royal Marine was with his mate called James, and there was issues of whose scooter this was. And the asylum seeker with an Afghan flag around his neck and a balaclava on who's stab happy, proceeded to kill this aspiring Royal Marine. And as you say, he come over here and pretended to be a child. But so, listen, we've been here before, and unfortunately, we will be here again unless we properly
Yes.
control our borders and unless we properly determine and do age-related checks. Now, there was something we was going to do a few years ago surrounding dental checks to have a rough idea of how old these people are to really determine if they're truthful or not. Now, it apparently went against their human rights. But if you're fleeing persecution, war, slavery, torture, imprisonment, and you've been offered a safe sanctuary, you're not going to worry about your teeth being checked, are you? To determine to go where you go.
Yeah,
So
I think something needs to be done.
this will happen again.
Yeah, and it's good. We're going to see this time and time again for as long as this goes on.
I don't know if you guys, if you guys picked up on the news that there was 200 of these kids missing. These immigrants are coming in and they're going to the hotels, but apparently 200 of the children who were here have suddenly gone missing. Now, the first thing that I thought when that happened was the example of this man who has pretended that he is 14 when he's actually 18. Are these people pretending that they're children to stay in the hotels and get their way, then finding their way as an adult and just disappearing off the system? Because why otherwise, where are these 200 children? Because I haven't seen any children coming in. I think I've seen a few children maybe from pictures from the hotels, but there's as we know, there's very few children who are coming, and yet 200 of them have suddenly gone missing. But I think there is a connection between not having the identity checks or the age checks, and these children that have suddenly gone missing from the hotels.
Yeah, and I think what you're talking about there, Jolene, is one particular case. I think them 200 people is from Brighton alone. If I'm right in thinking, these 200 people got missing from Brighton alone.
I had picked it up that it was from all over, so that was from one place. So how many of them, are missing from the rest of the UK? This is absolute insanity.
Exactly, they're just the ones we know about, and think about all the who are crossing the border of the south coast. Over 1,000 today. 1,000 more come in. Well, let's call this what it is. It is an invasion, because the vast majority of these, and I've seen it for myself in my hometown of Swindon, we've got about 4 or 5 big hotels closed down for these. They are 18 to 30-year-old males, well-groomed. They dress better than me. We have got a serious situation on our hands here. This cannot continue. How many is too many? What are we supposed to do? Just keep building hotels? Like, when we're seeing such ridiculous numbers, like it's about 500 or 600 yesterday, another 1,000 today. This is frightening. People need to start waking up to this now. This invasion has got to stop. The British have got to stand up now and do something about it. It's powering away.
It is, and it is nothing short of an invasion. Mainly men of fighting age, some armed, illegally entering a country. If that's not an invasion, I don't know what a definition of an invasion is. Now, this is proof. This is proof of when we say about the dangers of not knowing of who and where and when they've come from and what they've done and what their background is. This is the dangers which we've been telling for years and years and years. If we don't know who they are and where they're from and what their background is, this is the danger.
It is, and this is as you said with the last story. This is going to continue and continue and continue, and we can't look to the Conservative government. I see a lot of my followers. They're all Conservative voters, and every time they hear something from the new secretary that month, Home Secretary, people really need to wake up. The Conservatives have been in power for 12 and a half years, and they've done absolutely nothing but talk tough.
So, which is a great shame, because I really thought, as we've said before, me and you, David, when Priti Patel come in and Boris Johnson come in, I really thought things would change around. But lesson learned on our part.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and it's nothing. Nothing's going to happen under them, unfortunately. And a lot of people, you know, they're just dreaming if they think that the Conservatives are actually going to do anything.
Yeah, but,
You know,
let's be honest
they're
about
facilitating
this.
this.
They want people to come in. They want them to fill those
Yeah.
hotels. You know,
Yes.
this is a globalist coup that we're seeing here. We are literally
They're
at war
pre-booked,
with our
Martin.
own government.
Martin, the hotels are
Exactly.
pre-booked. As you know, I'm in the security industry, and I know lots of people who are working security in these hotels. And there was one hotel in particular over North London a friend of mine was working at. Whilst he was there, you know, he got into several fights with the illegal migrants. He was on a floor which was allocated to females and children only. There wasn't that many. There was only like 3 or 4 rooms on that floor that was occupied. So it just shows you the numbers. The rest of the hotel was, you know, occupied by these illegal economic migrants. But they would literally come to the floor to harass the women. And, you know, his job was to keep them off of that floor. And he was saying to me, you know, they go out, they get steaming drunk, they're drug dealing, they're causing, you know, all sorts of bother and causing fights and stuff like that. And, you know, these are the sort of people that the Labour Party, you know, and the Conservatives are pushing, saying, oh, we need to get a, you know, safe route for them to come in. No, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah,
they're future scientists and doctors and technicians. Yeah. They're the future.
Yeah. Well, they are true right there.
Exactly. Well, just to switch it up a little bit, the next topic I want to touch on is to do with, obviously, we spoke about this before, was Black Boy Lane. Sadiq Khan introduced just after the death of George Floyd. He introduced the Diversity Commission within the public realm within London, and their job was, I think there was like 13 people on this commission originally. One of them was given the elbow because it turned out he was a racist. Surprise, surprise. And the idea behind it is they go around and they tear down statues that have any sort of links to slavery, you know, sort of that sort of history, rename street names and stuff like that. And they've recently done Black Boy Lane. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, you know, yeah, I mean, there are some streets I think they're looking at, but how long before, you know, how far does this go? We've seen once we give them an inch, you know, they'll take a mile.
But
you know, David, what's your views on this?
David, Harrogate Council, I think it was, it cost £180,000 to do this. Now that road, none of the black people surveyed down there wanted the name change because they could see the historical background behind it. It was actually relating to a child chimney sweeper, I believe. But of course, once again, they've got to turn everything racist, haven't they? But the people didn't want this, but they enforced it upon them. Yesterday, I think it was the first day it was renamed, and it was sabotaged straight away. So it was clear it hasn't gone down well, and it's causing more division. Maybe they should have renamed it Gary Lineker Lane. We should call it that.
Yeah, I see that. But look, Dave, once again, sorry, we're trying to rewrite history. Yeah, we've seen it with the statues. You've already mentioned that. Now we're seeing it more with street signs. Now they renamed Black Boy Lane, which I originally thought was named after King Charles II because he's long black hair. I may be wrong. So they've renamed it Black Boy Lane to La Rose Lane, which I think is after a black publisher. But funnily enough, they still left the original name underneath it in brackets, formerly Black Boy Lane. So it's not that of a bad thing for them to still leave it on. Now, listen, Martin, let's talk about the costs. 188,000, nearly 200,000 to rename the sign. Who was doing the maths? Diane Abbott. Who was doing the maths? Trigger from Only Fools and Horses, Diane Abbott. Who was doing the maths on this? Because it doesn't add up. It's pathetic. And Martin made a good point. If you look at the demographic, right, now once again, it proves that democracy doesn't mean a thing, because as with the Oxfordshire 15-minute cities, nearly 90% voted against it. The council still are going to go ahead with it. In this case, 78% voted against the renaming of Black Boy Lane. If you look at the demographic, David, Holden, Martin, Jolene, and listeners, not one Black, African, or Caribbean person voted for the name to be changed. So what does that tell you? Where are we at?
Does that not really summarize this whole racist cry that we have heard, especially in recent years, where these privileged white politicians are coming to us and saying, you're racist because,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and and they're just demanding. And what that does is it puts a chip on people's shoulder, and on both sides of the argument, where people then start, thinking that they are hard done by, because of these elites who are pushing this racism. And the reality is, as Martin has said, 100% of the black people who lived in that street didn't want to change. So
Yeah,
therefore, how was it
yeah,
racist? Who matters in these consultations? I as you know, I was elected to Belfast City Council, and the reality is that the consultations that the councils do seem to be a paper ticking exercise, and it doesn't actually matter what the consultation says, unless the residents are willing to really kick up a stink. The consultation isn't there to ask for permission, which it should be. The consultation is there so that the council can tick a box to say that they've done the consultation. The results of that
yeah.
consultation are never looked at in full to make these decisions. And the councils in Northern Ireland are a little different from the guys in England, but we had just got the planning brought through to our council, so that it was councillors making the decision on controversial planning permission, which would include street signs. And as I say, the consultations weren't really looked at. It was basically a paper ticking exercise, and there was complaints from residents that it didn't go far enough, as well, which is something I think um, is a problem. Is that not enough people are being asked either, so that people like ourselves can look at the
Yeah.
statistics. These consultations, they are literally asking the bare minimum of people, and I think it does need to go out to wider society to ask their opinions, so that we can look at the statistics and use those.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's what they do here as well. They've so in in my borough where I live in London, the local council had a meeting with regards to these low traffic neighbourhood schemes, and ULEZ, etc. But they were inviting cyclists, so of course they're going to agree with it. It's like,
Oh, sneaky,
you know,
sneaky.
yeah,
That's just a
yeah.
joke,
So
isn't it?
you get there and it's just full of cyclists. Of course they're going to agree with what you're doing.
Exactly.
But this is the thing. It's these people aren't going to stop. Where does it? It will never stop. They're going to.
But
This diversity commission is just literally going to destroy London. I can see them going further and further and further. It won't be before long. Hammersmith and Fulham
definitely.
Council rename White City. You can see that coming.
Don't give them
Um,
ideas. Do not give them ideas.
yeah,
But can,
I'll
can
see
I can I just say
Often,
can I just,
yeah. I mean, yeah,
can I just
again,
say
it's our,
can I just
our
say
delusional
quickly?
democracy we live in, isn't it? We're
Yeah,
in an anti-democratic first past the post system, red or blue, their cheeks are the same backside, and then if
yeah,
whoever gets it, it doesn't matter because they're controlled by the World Economic Forum. Like even
mm,
Keir Starmer was like rubbing shoulders out in Davos, and he blatantly said in a video clip. I think on my Telegram channel I put up today, he was saying he would choose Davos, the World Economic Forum, over Westminster. That just says it all. We
doesn't
do not
surprise me.
live in a
Yeah,
democracy, and anyone thinks that we do needs to give their head a wobble.
I was having a little laugh
no.
to myself earlier. I was thinking about these snowflakes and thought I used to live in Australia, as you know, and I lived in a Northern Territory in Darwin, which is pretty much a man's world. There's like 10 men to every one woman there, and I used to go to a gym in a place called Fanny Bay, and we used to have to this is the funny part is we used to have to drive down a road called Dick Ward Drive to get into Fanny Bay. I
Hey,
just couldn't help but think, what are these snowflakes? They would be melting if they were there.
their head would explode. But can I just say
meltdown, wouldn't they? Yeah.
Let me just say briefly a shout out to the residents of Haringey. If I can give a shout out to the residents of Haringey, because they are fighting back. They've scribbled out the new name, and most residents now are buying Black Boy Lane signs and putting them in their house windows, on their doorsteps, on the front of their gardens. So they're not having it. They're making a little bit of a fight back. So massive respect to the residents of Haringey.
Absolutely.
And that's what people have got to do.
Yeah, 100%.
Sorry, we're all talking over. It's not very often that you hear that from London when these globalists are pushing their agenda. So I'm really glad to hear that the residents are fighting back.
Definitely.
That's it. I mean, that's what people got to do. People, it's people power. People have got to come out and start fighting back. I've seen that in my area with these cameras they've got for these low traffic neighbourhood schemes. A few of them have been vandalised. They've got the ANPR cameras and stuff like that. I think if people come out and take direct action against it, as we see with the watermelons, like Just Oil and stuff like that, super gluing themselves and doing stuff and to push their agenda. I think if people actually come out in force and refuse to comply with it, they'll have no option but to backtrack, will they?
Yeah, definitely.
No, exactly. And I want to
Right,
give
guys,
a huge shout out to Oxford as well, quickly on that matter for what they're doing, pushing right back on these globalists.
Yes, they are.
So huge shout out to Oxford.
Yep. Yes, February 18th.
Yep.
Thank you.
And Canterbury as well. There's a few people pushing back there, and in Birmingham, these 15-minute cities and 20-minute cities and stuff like that. So yeah, it's good to see. Well, thanks everyone for your participation and joining in this evening. So you'll be able to find this will be uploaded to the Red, White and Blue YouTube channel. As I was saying, as mine's now been nuked, so I can't even upload any videos or whatnot. And we'll be sharing this on social media. So thanks a lot, guys, and I'll be chatting with you next week.
Cheers, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.